What if the difference between frustration and confidence in your most intimate moments had nothing to do with size, luck, or even experience, but instead came down to a quiet, overlooked routine that happens long before the lights go off? Something simple, almost effortless, yet powerful enough to change how you feel, how you perform, and how deeply you connect with your partner when it matters most. The truth is that many men spend years searching for complicated solutions, external fixes, or instant results, while ignoring the subtle but profound connection between nightly habits, physical readiness, and emotional presence. And one of the most underestimated rituals is the nighttime oil routine, not as a gimmick or miracle cure, but as a mindful practice rooted in consistency, awareness, and the body's natural ability to respond when it is properly cared for and understood. When we talk about performance, we are not just talking about physical function, but about confidence, rhythm, emotional safety, and the ability to stay present in the moment without distraction or anxiety. And this is where a simple routine can begin to reshape everything from the ground up. Imagine ending your day not with stress, scrolling, or mental noise, but with a few intentional minutes focused entirely on your body, your breath, and your awareness, using a natural oil that supports circulation, relaxation, and sensitivity, applied with patience rather than urgency, turning what most people overlook into a moment of quiet self-connection. This is not about rushing or chasing immediate results, because the real transformation happens gradually as your body begins to associate nighttime with calmness, recovery, and preparation, allowing your nervous system to shift away from tension and toward balance, which directly impacts how you respond during intimacy. Many men underestimate how much stress and mental fatigue interfere with performance, often mistaking physical issues for what is actually a deeper disconnect between mind and body. And this is why a nighttime routine becomes more than just physical care. It becomes a signal, a message to your system that it is safe to relax, safe to restore, and safe to be fully present. Oils, whether it is something light and nourishing like almond oil or something slightly more stimulating, like coconut oil infused with natural extracts, are not magical on their own, but when combined with consistent, mindful application, they can enhance blood flow, improve skin health, and increase awareness of subtle sensations, which over time can translate into better control and responsiveness. What matters most is how you use the routine, the pace, the intention, the way you focus on breathing slowly, letting go of tension, and paying attention to how your body feels rather than how it performs, because performance is always a result, never the starting point. Think about how rarely men are taught to slow down in this area of life, to actually listen to their bodies, instead of pushing through pressure or expectations, and how transformative it can be to replace that pressure with curiosity and patience, especially in a private and free moment at night. This is where confidence begins to rebuild, not from external validation, but from internal familiarity, from knowing how your body responds when it is relaxed versus when it is tense, when it is rushed versus when it is given time, and that awareness carries forward into your intimate experiences in ways that feel natural rather than forced. Another key aspect of this routine is consistency, because one night of effort will not change anything, but weeks of gentle, intentional practice can create a noticeable shift, not just physically, but mentally, as you begin to feel more in control, more grounded, and less reactive to pressure. The body thrives on patterns, and when you give it a pattern of care, especially before sleep, when recovery processes are already active, you amplify its ability to respond positively, making this simple habit far more impactful than it might seem at first glance. It is also important to understand that this routine is not about chasing perfection or comparing yourself to unrealistic standards, but about building a relationship with your own body that is based on respect, patience, and awareness, which ultimately reflects in how you connect with your partner, because intimacy is never just physical, it is deeply emotional and psychological as well. So, when a man feels calm, present, and confident, it changes the entire dynamic, making the experience more connected, more satisfying, and more meaningful for both people involved. And yet, so many overlook this because they are searching for something dramatic or immediate, when in reality, the most powerful changes often come from the simplest, most consistent actions done over time. This is why the nighttime oil routine stands out, not as a quick fix, but as a foundation, a quiet habit that supports everything else, from physical readiness to emotional balance, creating a ripple effect that extends far beyond those few minutes before sleep. As you begin to explore this practice, you may notice small changes at first, perhaps a greater sense of relaxation, a deeper sleep, or a subtle increase in sensitivity, and these are signs that your body is responding, adapting, and moving toward a more balanced state, which is exactly what you want, because true performance is never forced. It emerges naturally when the conditions are right. And as those conditions improve, so does your confidence. Not the loud surface-level kind, but the quiet, steady confidence that comes from knowing you are prepared, aware, and in tune with yourself. This is where the real transformation begins, not in a single moment, but in a series of small, intentional choices that build on each other, night after night, creating a foundation that supports not just better performance, but a deeper, more fulfilling experience of intimacy as a whole. As this routine becomes part of your nightly rhythm, something subtle but powerful begins to shift. And it is not just in the body, but in the way you approach intimacy as a whole, because what once may have felt like pressure slowly turns into presence, and what once felt uncertain starts to feel familiar and controlled in the best possible way. The key to unlocking deeper benefits lies in how you approach the technique itself, not with force or urgency, but with a steady, deliberate pace that allows your body to fully respond without resistance, because the goal is not stimulation for its own sake, but awareness, circulation, and relaxation working together in harmony. When applying the oil, the focus should remain on consistency of motion and a calm, unhurried mindset, allowing each movement to be guided by comfort rather than expectation. Because the nervous system plays a central role here, and when it is calm, everything else follows more naturally. Breathing becomes an essential part of this process, and many men overlook how powerful, slow, controlled breathing can be in regulating arousal, reducing tension, and improving overall responsiveness. So as the routine unfolds each night, pairing gentle application with deep, steady breaths creates a feedback loop that tells your body it is safe to relax and respond without pressure. Over time, this connection between breath and physical awareness strengthens, making it easier to stay in control during real moments of intimacy, where anxiety or overstimulation might otherwise take over. Timing is another important factor, and the most effective routines are those done consistently before sleep, when the body is naturally preparing to recover and restore itself, because this is when blood flow, hormone regulation, and tissue repair are most active, allowing the benefits of the routine to compound over time. Rather than treating it as something separate from your daily life, It becomes integrated into your nighttime wind down, just like brushing your teeth or turning off the lights, simple but meaningful. And the more effortless it feels, the more likely it is to remain consistent, which is where the real results come from. Many men make the mistake of expecting immediate changes, and when they do not see them, they abandon the process too early, not realizing that the body adapts gradually, especially when it comes to sensitivity, control, and endurance. And this is why patience becomes one of the most important elements of the routine. With each passing week, small improvements begin to layer on top of each other, and what once felt like a subtle difference starts to become more noticeable. Whether it is improved awareness over reactions, or simply a stronger sense of confidence that comes from knowing your body is responding the way you want it to. Another layer to this practice involves mental focus, because where your attention goes during the routine shapes how effective it becomes, and instead of letting your mind wander or rushing through the process, staying fully present, noticing sensations without judgment, and maintaining a calm internal dialogue enhances the connection between mind and body in a way that carries forward into your intimate experiences. This is especially important because performance issues are often tied to distraction or overthinking, and by training your mind to stay present during these quiet, nightly moments, you are essentially preparing yourself to do the same when it matters most. It is also worth understanding that this routine is not about creating dependency on a product or a specific method, but about building awareness and control that remain with you, regardless of the situation, because the oil is simply a tool, while the real transformation comes from how you use it and how consistently you show up for the process. As your awareness deepens, you may begin to notice patterns in how your body responds, how certain levels of pressure, pace, or timing affect your overall control, and this knowledge becomes incredibly valuable, allowing you to adapt naturally during intimacy rather than relying on guesswork or reacting impulsively. Emotional readiness also begins to improve alongside physical changes, because when you feel prepared and in tune with yourself, it reduces performance anxiety and creates a more relaxed, confident presence, which your partner can sense, often without a single word being spoken. This shift in energy changes the entire experience, making it less about performance and more about connection, less about pressure and more about shared presence. And this is where true satisfaction begins to grow for both individuals involved. Over time, the routine becomes less about improvement and more about maintenance, a way to stay connected to your body, to check in with yourself, and to reinforce the habits that support long-term confidence and performance, because just like any other aspect of health, consistency matters far more than intensity. The beauty of this practice lies in its simplicity, because it does not require expensive tools, complicated steps, or drastic changes, just a willingness to slow down, pay attention, and commit to a few intentional minutes each night. And, in a world that constantly pushes speed and instant results, this kind of patience becomes a powerful advantage. As these changes take root, you may find that your overall sense of well-being improves as well, because the benefits are not limited to intimacy alone, but extend into how you carry yourself, how you manage stress, and how you engage with your partner on a deeper level, creating a more balanced and fulfilling dynamic that goes beyond the physical. And as you continue this journey, refining your technique, strengthening your awareness, and building consistency, you are not just improving performance, you are reshaping your relationship with intimacy itself, turning it into something more grounded, more connected, and ultimately more satisfying in ways that go far beyond what most people ever take the time to explore. And as everything goes, what you start to realize is that this journey was never just about a routine, a technique, or even performance in the narrow. It was about rebuilding a deeper connection with yourself that naturally transforms how you show up in your most intimate moments. Because when the body feels understood and the mind feels calm, everything else aligns without force or struggle. The final layer of this transformation is not something you add, but something you remove, and that is the constant pressure to perform, the quiet anxiety that often sits in the background, and the habit of measuring yourself against unrealistic expectations, because those are the very things that disrupt natural rhythm and prevent true connection from unfolding. What the nighttime oil routine has been quietly doing all along is retraining your system to shift away from that pressure and toward presence, teaching you that control does not come from tension, but from awareness, and that confidence is not built in a single moment, but through repeated experiences of calm, steady familiarity. When you carry this into your intimate life, it changes everything in a way that feels almost effortless, because instead of reacting to the moment, you are moving with it. Instead of worrying about outcomes, you are engaged in the experience itself. And that shift is what creates deeper satisfaction, not just physically, but emotionally, for both you and your partner. There is a noticeable difference between someone who is trying to prove something and someone who is simply present, and that difference is felt, not explained. And this is where the real impact of your consistency begins to show. It becomes more intentional, your pace more natural, your awareness more refined, and all of these qualities come from the quiet work you have been doing, night after night, often without immediate reward, but with long-term transformation, steadily building beneath the surface. It is also important to recognize that this is not a finish line, but an ongoing relationship with your body, one that evolves as you continue to learn, adapt, and stay consistent with the habits that support your well-being. Because just like physical fitness or mental clarity, this too requires maintenance, not intensity. And the more you respect that process, the more sustainable your results will be. You may find that over time, you rely less on the routine itself and more on the awareness it has given you. Because the ultimate goal was never dependency, but independence, the ability to understand and respond to your body naturally, without overthinking or hesitation. This is where true confidence lives, not in external validation, but in internal stability, in knowing that you are prepared, aware, and capable, without needing constant reassurance. And when this kind of confidence meets intimacy, it creates a completely different experience, one that is grounded, connected, and deeply satisfying in a way that goes beyond surface-level expectations. Your partner feels the difference in your presence, in your patience, in your ability to stay engaged without rushing or withdrawing. And this naturally builds trust, which is one of the most powerful elements of any intimate connection. Trust allows both people to relax, to open up, and to fully experience the moment without holding back. And this is where intimacy becomes something more meaningful, more fulfilling, and more memorable for both sides. Another important realization that often emerges at this stage is that performance was never just physical. It was always influenced by mental clarity, emotional balance, and the ability to remain present. And by addressing those elements through a simple, consistent nighttime practice, you have created a foundation that supports all of them at once. This is why the results feel holistic rather than isolated, because you are not just improving one aspect, you are aligning multiple aspects of your well-being in a way that naturally enhances your overall experience. As you continue forward, there may be times when motivation fluctuates or routines get disrupted, and that is normal. But what matters is returning to the practice without frustration, without judgment, simply picking up where you left off, because consistency over time will always outweigh short bursts of effort, followed by long gaps. The routine itself remains simple, but its impact continues to deepen as your awareness grows. And this is what makes it sustainable, because it does not rely on complexity or external factors, only on your willingness to stay present and committed to your own well-being. In the end, what started as a small, almost insignificant habit becomes something much more meaningful, a daily reminder that real change does not come from chasing quick fixes, but from understanding, patience, and that when you take the time to care for your body and mind in a thoughtful way, the results extend far beyond what you initially expected. This is the essence of lasting performance, not something forced or temporary, but something that emerges naturally when everything is aligned, when the mind is calm, the body is responsive, and the connection between the two is strong and reliable. And that is the real takeaway. Not just a routine, but a shift in how you approach intimacy, how you understand your body, and how you build confidence from the inside out, creating an experience that is not only more effective, but more fulfilling, more connected, and ultimately more real than anything built on pressure or expectation alone.